Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wine Wednesdays. I am Lindsay, the fantasy fan.
And I'm Danielle, your resident romantic, and we are friends
till the book ends. And today we are bringing you a video where we drink wine and we whine about the shitty books that have infiltrated our lives.
Yes,
so
the books that we are firmly putting
cheers
an
to
end
that.
to.
Danielle and I have both read a couple of duds over the past couple months that we just kind of want to chat about and let you know that you should not read them.
You should steer clear away.
So I'll go ahead and kick us off. So the first book that I would like to whine about is Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro.
I don't think I've heard of this one.
Yes. So this is a book that is a translated work. It just came out, I believe, in May.
Okay.
So I was waiting for my library to get the copy. I love the cover, and essentially we're following an artificial friend, so kind of like an AI named Clara, who is just waiting in the store to be chosen by someone to bring home. Mm-hmm. So she's chosen by a girl named Josie. She goes home with Josie, and then we just have to watch Josie and Clara interact, and it just is very boring. I didn't finish it. I DNF'd it. I got to about the 60% mark, and I was like, I don't care. It was due back to the library, and I was like, I'm either going to have to like rush to finish it or just give up, so I gave up. But yeah, it was very boring. Nothing happened the whole book, and so when we got to the end, I was like, I'm just gonna like look at Goodreads reviews to see what other people are saying, to see if anybody feels the same way that I felt, and all of the reviews were like, I just kept reading thinking that something was going to happen, but nothing happened. I feel like people either gave this book a 5 stars because they were able to see the very like meta cognitive, like it's a commentary about humans and human society and pollution and technology, and then everyone else, and then the other side gave it like 2 stars, and they were like, what the fuck was this? So I think I fall more towards that side, where I just felt like the entire book was weird, and like, because we're seeing it through Clara's eyes, so she doesn't know like what a television is, or she only knows the things that she has seen and experienced herself. So she thinks that the sun is a god because the AIs are kind of, they're solar powered. So to them, like, the sun is the god. That's why it's called Clara and the Sun. And she thinks that when the sun sets, it sets in this like shed. Because when she's at Josie's house, when the sun sets, it looks like it's going behind the shed. So she's like, this is the house, the sun's home. I'm going to go see and visit him because Josie is sick. We don't know why she's sick or what she has. It's never fully explained what her deal is.
Well, you had 40% left. It may have eventually gotten explained.
It was not explained to where I was at, and we were 60% into it, and I was still like, I don't understand what her problem is. And so, you know, Clara's, I guess the rest of the book from where I was at probably would have focused on Clara trying to get the sun to help her cure Josie. And it felt like maybe there was stuff going over my head. I'm sure there was stuff going over my head, but I just didn't understand the point. It just makes me very hesitant to read the author's other work that I have, which is Never Let Me Go, which was like a international prize-winning, highly acclaimed book. Yes, but it sounds like nothing like what this one's about. It's about a group of people in college, so it has nothing to do with AIs or anything. But this one was a miss for me. Pretty disappointed because I heard good early reviews, and I love the cover, and I really wanted to like a literary fiction book. I wanted to feel smart, and instead I felt bored and dumb.
So both of the books that I talked about today are probably going to be unpopular opinions. At least with Lindsay. I know they're unpopular opinions with Lindsay, which is fine.
They are.
So, the first book that I'm going to be whining about today is Beach Read by Emily Henry. If you have not heard, this is a solid book for Lindsay. Lindsay, what was your rating for this book?
It was a 5 out of 5.
It was a 5 out of 5
One of my favorite books I read last year. So,
I DNF'd it. I'm
gonna drink to my sadness away.
Lindsay's gonna drink the whole time I'm talking about it. So, I rented this from my library on Libby. It was an ebook. The first time I rented it, I was able to get the first chapter in, and then the hold, whatever, expired. So I had to re-hold it, wait a couple weeks for it to come back. I was reading other books at the time. I didn't even get a chance to read it that time. I had to re-hold it again. It finally came back. I started to read it again. I picked up where I left off. I think I got 3 or 4 chapters in, And I was like, this is not pulling me in. I'm not going to waste my time on this anymore. And I didn't read it. So, for those of you who don't know, Beach Read is about a, I don't know, middle 20s, right? Mid-20s girl named January. She writes romance books, and she recently found out that her dad, who recently died, had, like, a whole nother life, a whole nother girl that he lived with, and it, like, destroyed her. She was a hopeless romantic like I was, and then all of her beliefs were, like, destroyed. And so she goes to this beach house that used to be where him and this trollop dated for the whole time. And she's supposed to use that as a cathartic release to start writing again, because she gets writer's block from it. And then the house next to her is Augustus, who I guess, she went to high school with or college with?
Yeah.
And he writes literary fiction, and he's also working through writer's block, and they're supposed
I bet he would have understood Clara and the Sun.
He would have. And apparently it's supposed to be a book about those two switching genres so they can kind of unblock themselves. And I didn't even get to that part. I was to the part where they were just starting to understand each other, and I was not relating to January at all. Like, she was this bitter woman who I get. Like, she was going through a traumatic moment in her life. She lost her dad. She found out he had a whole secret life. I get that she's going to the beach house to kind of, like, because she's stuck on the fact that romance was a lie for her mom and her dad, and I guess the beach house is supposed to be a chance for her to kind of release everything that she's holding on to. And that's fine, but I don't always necessarily agree with that. Like, you dove right in. You can't just live in a house by yourself, surrounded by the memories of your dad and his trollop. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. That is not going to immediately unblock you, in my opinion. You need to work up to that, or you need to, like, be there with someone else. And then, I don't understand Gus. One of the first interactions we have with Gus is that his house is filled with people who are partying, and he's sitting on the back deck alone. And I'm just like,
it's metaphorical.
I understand that there's probably a lot more coming in the book, and Lindsay said it, one of your favorite couples of all time kind of thing?
Yes.
And I get that, but just
They visit a cult together.
I don't know, the beginning was, like, just right away depressing. And it didn't give me any hope to keep going. Like, if you start me off like that, it's not a good start to a love story. For me.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, like, I feel like I have to climb over a wall to then see the green on the other side. You know what I mean? So, I understand that a lot of people, not just Lindsay, really enjoyed this book. I just couldn't get through it. Which, it's funny, because I read The Love That Split the World by Emily Henry, which is a YA book that is so beautiful and made me cry at the end. And yet, I think Beach Read was a miss for me. I'm gonna have to try another book by Emily Henry and just see what's going on.
Alright, so the next book that was probably my biggest disappointment and put me in a major reading slump was Bruised by Tanya Boteju. This book was just not it for me. So we're following a girl whose parents died in a car accident a couple years ago. Now she's living with her aunt and uncle. But she self-harms by giving herself bruises.
Okay.
Because when she was in the car accident with her parents and she was the only survivor, I'm assuming this is where it came from, but when she was in the car accident, she had a bruise from the seatbelt.
Right.
And ever since then, she's kind of had this thing with bruises. However, that's not mentioned whatsoever in the synopses of the book, so if you're triggered by, like,
there's not a trigger warning.
No, there's no trigger warnings anywhere for it, and while that's not a trigger for me personally, I was kind of reading it being like, why wasn't this anywhere in the synopsis or, like, a warning?
That's never a good thing to walk into a book without a trigger warning.
Yeah.
And then there's always a possibility of being triggered, and it's like, wow.
Yeah. And essentially, like, our main character is decided that she's going to take up roller derby because it's a good way to get bruises, because everyone is, like, smashing into each other and shit. I just didn't like this book. It's a short book. It's about 300 pages, and it took me, like, almost 2 weeks to get through. Yeah.
Oh my god.
It was just painstakingly, it was like pulling teeth trying to get myself to read this, because I really wanted to read a book that was written by an author of color, lives in unceded land up in Canada, and, you know, her books are filled with queer characters. Basically, everybody's queer. It also has a queer romance in it, and I really wanted to like it because I thought that the representation was just so good, but I just hated it. Like, there was, like, the only redeeming aspect was the fact that queerness was so it was just part of the book. Like, there wasn't any big struggle about, like, I don't know who I am. There was
no kind of, like, resolution with that.
No. There's no, like, any kind of, like, queer trauma or anything. It's just people are queer. We have non-binary characters. We have gay characters. We have lesbian characters, bi, pan. Everybody is in. It's just a part of the book. Like, there's no, they're gay kind of thing. It just is. So I really liked that casual, easy representation, but, like, the plot and the characters were so unlikable. Our main character is a bitch. She's mean to everyone around her. She doesn't understand why she has trouble making friends while she's mean to everybody. And then, like, her love interest is, like, hot and cold, who, like, she's nice to her 1 minute and the next minute she's upset. Then she's nice, then she's upset. And I just didn't, it was so unbelievable.
Right.
And I wish that I liked the roller derby aspect, but I felt as if it was kind of cliche and very, like, they have, like, not hazing, but they have, like, a rookie initiation thing, and it's so cringe, where they're like, we're going a roller derbying, like, it's just so, like, and they have to put on tutus and get drunk, and it's like, all these characters are underage, they're in, like, high school, and I'm like, it didn't feel real. Like, where you're going into a bar and getting drunk, or you're, like, what? Like, I didn't feel as if this character had ever been 17, or this author had ever been 17, like, it just didn't vibe. It was so slow. I just really didn't like it. I probably won't read anything from this author again, just because I really didn't like anything about the book other than the good representation, but it could just be a me thing. So, you know, if you this book might be impactful for someone who is queer and really thinks that the representation was good and beneficial and helpful for them, but just the plot to me was so all over the place and the characters sucked, so I just probably won't read anything from this author again. So this one really put me in a slump. So bye.
So I feel bad because both the books I'm talking about today are books that Lindsay really loves, and I'm sorry if I offend you with trashing them.
It's not for everybody. That's the beauty of reading, is that everybody is different.
Yes, and the point of the Wine Wednesdays is to not hold back. So I'm doing my best to not hold back.
Yes.
So the next one I'm going to talk about is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This was one that was sold to me as a hate to love. Mistake number one. So this is about Jude. She is human, her twin sister is human, and her older sister is half fae, half human. And the way that works is because the mom was human, and when she was younger, she got together with this great fae guy, but she didn't want to raise her child in the fae world, and so she faked her death, left. Is this spoiler?
Dramatic. No.
Okay.
I just like that she faked her death.
Right. I thought that was pretty cool. And all of this is happening in the first chapter, by the way. So, she ends up meeting a human guy, gives birth to Jude and her twin sister. We're at, like, the teenage years for them, I think. Right? Early teenage years. Yes, somewhere in that time frame, and the fae comes in to the house, and the wife is like, kids, go upstairs, and you see the fae king just slaughter their parents. And then he's like, okay, well, it is now my justice to take you kids under my path, I shall raise you. Like, first of all, you just slaughtered their parents, and then you were like, alright, I'm gonna raise you as my own, it's my duty.
Yeah.
How can you murder and then also go, I must take care of these kids now that I have murdered their parents? I don't understand that part. That's just mistake number one.
It is a little.
Or mistake number two, I guess, if we're counting. Flash forward 10 years later, Jude and her twin sister are being raised with the Fae. They're in the normal classes that the Fae are having, and they're adjusting to Fae life. But the Fae do not like humans, specifically Prince Carden. Carden makes it his business to bully Jude and her sister. And that is where the hate to love was sold for me. It was supposed to be a hate to love between Carden and Jude. This is also a series, so there may, or a trilogy, I'm not sure. It's not going to happen for me, so I don't know. There may be a hate to love that blossoms later on in the trilogy/series. However, it was all hate. There was not a single bit of love in here, and I kept turning the pages. I was going to DNF it, but I kept turning the pages. I was like, alright, we're blossoming somewhere, we're towards the end, we're getting something. Hate. And there are, like, side romances between some of the other characters, and it's not even that strong of a romance, in my opinion. I mean, he straight up abuses her. Lindsay, like, I specifically didn't talk to Lindsay about this because I was waiting for the Wine Wednesday. Explain this to me. He straight up abuses her. His friend tries to... Nope, not gonna spoil.
I told you that he just bullies her.
Yeah, but where was the love?
It comes. It's a slow burn.
Where? The candle's burning down and there's no love.
I guess it happens more in the second book, but this is the foundation where you figure out, like, you understand... Well, you don't I don't know if you can understand, but you see the dynamic between the two, and then the second book comes in and it's like, wham!
Wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
I feel like I'm being, buried in the cement with this foundation. Like, nothing was sticking for me. I've also read other Fae books where some of them are where the Fae are super nice to the humans. Mm-hmm. Some of them are where the Fae are not liking the humans. This is the harshest Fae-human mix of book that I've read, mm-hmm. so it may be that I just really do not like... Mm-hmm. that abusive behavior from the Fae.
Yeah.
And I mean, okay, it's called The Cruel Prince. I really should have saw that coming. And it did have a nice plot twist at the end. Oh, it is a trilogy. It had a nice plot twist at the end, but it didn't end on a note that made me want to see what happened between Jude and Cardan. Like, I needed something from the author to encourage me to see what's gonna happen between them. But if anything, I feel like the second, and you know more, I don't know what's going to happen, but the vibe I got was that it's going to be even more abusive in the second book. And maybe it gets better, but I don't... That's honestly the only reason I hate... Oh, my rating was a 2.5. I should have said that. That's honestly the whole reason I didn't like it. Everyone was abusive to her.
Yeah.
I want to read more about the older sister, because she kind of lives a double life in the Fae world and the human world, and she has a romance with another woman out there, and I think I would be interested to read more.
More about that?
Right.
Yeah.
Like maybe a spin-off series if it doesn't touch more than that. So, alright. That was that. Sorry if you do not agree with our opinions.
It is what it is.
Yes.
We can't like them all. But let us know if you've read any of these books, if you feel the way I felt or Danielle felt, or, what's the deal. And let us also know what books recently that you hated and you want to whine about. But yes, thank you for watching this video. We will see you guys in our next video. Bye!